I think we did it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a big moment. I actually wasn't sure if it was gonna work. Let's move OBS over. Oh, and music off. Cool. What's up, everyone? Jake says we have sound, Aaron, so I think we're doing okay.
Nice.
Welcome to a very special episode of the preview presented by DC Brau with your host, Aaron Bree. How are you doing?
Am I hosting? Am I officially hosting? I thought I was the guest.
Wait, I thought I was the guest. Oh God. Okay, we're off to a really rough start already. But that's fine. That's fine. We're gonna do it live. I thought you were the host, but I can host. We can.
I guess it is the preview, but I don't know. Well, here we are. Here we are, not in Hawaii, and pretending we're not sad about it. But
I don't know. I know. I'm just kidding. I think everyone's actually a little sad about it. But we have.
I mean, we'll see in a week who's sad about it, right? Because I think one of the, not to get way too far ahead of ourselves here, but someone's gonna leave Hawaii with no additional wins, and they will be the saddest about it because they will have put in the effort to go there, and the jet lag and all of that, and then they're gonna come home.
Wait.
No
So
wins.
is this your official prediction? And we will get to our pick'ems, but is that your official prediction? You're saying a Western team is going to leave Hawaii with 0 wins.
I mean, that's what I'm manifesting, right? I want, as someone who is deeply skin in the game for the Washington Justice doing better than other Western teams, I want Chengdu and Shanghai to just run the table. I want Dallas and Florida to have the Philly Fusion 2020 experience and come home winless, and
Winless with nothing but sand in their toes, right? That's the Hey, Izugio, we're doing I just butchered that name. In case anyone can't tell, I have not streamed in a long time. Aaron has been doing a bunch of these and has been crushing it. So I'm the rusty one who's gonna try to remember how to interact with chat and do these things. But yes, we're doing well. I know Aaron can speak a little bit toward what the team's been doing. I know people have been taking some time off. We had some painters in the facility today. We're almost done, and we'll be
Looks
really
awesome.
Yes, we'll be really excited to unveil that to everyone in a couple of maybe a week, and hopefully can have some news around welcoming fans in person to the facility, which will feel really good. So, Aaron, should we show everyone what we're drinking today? I don't know if that's a good place to start. I don't know, where do you start with these? Do you have like a schedule?
No, I think your plug for DC Brau at the beginning is my normal first nod to DC Brau, but you know, we're still working our way through.
We're working. Yeah, we got some of these custom DC Braus.
Yeah, and when they gave them to us, you know, like, I'm an IPA guy. I feel like IPAs are having their time in the sun right now. But the guys at DC Brau, they were like, when they were describing it to us, they were like drinkable, and I think they even got to the point of crushable.
What?
That's a nice thing, because it's like, if it's something that's like really has like a really strong flavor profile, maybe like the third or fourth preview, I'm like not wanting to have that same flavor. But this is a nice neutral. This is good. And today was a perfect day for it. So DC's weather right now is borderline Hawaii weather, if I say so myself.
You're really trying to make it sound like we're not sad about not being in Hawaii, right?
I'm not sad. I'm not sad at
Aaron's
all.
not sad at all, guys. You heard it here first. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I was also an IPA guy, and like, as they were explaining the like reasoning behind like the lager and the flavor they wanted, it was just crazy. Like, the science that goes into like they wanted something lighter, because like when you're at a sporting event, like you want to be able to like drink some without being like too tired. Of course, drink responsibly and be over 21. Be important to have that out there. But yeah, I mean, it was just crazy how they came up with it. So, and obviously we are the beneficiaries, as are all of our lovely fans in the DD who've had a chance to try a sip of Justice. So, Aaron, should we run through our agenda? Is it an agenda? I'm running this like a meeting. This is not a solid start. But in any case,
I'm liking it. I'm pulling up my bracket right now.
Okay, perfect. We do have a list of some topics that we wanted to cover with all of you guys. As always, feel free to drop us questions in the chat, interrupt us. tell us, especially me, that I have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm sure I'm going to say something that just makes no logical sense whatsoever when it comes to Overwatch. But essentially, we're gonna run through um, some of the matches of the week. So we're gonna pick our favorite of the first two. We'll talk a little bit about what's the meta and what the meta is going to be in Hawaii. And by we, I mean Aaron's going to really talk about that and explain the competitive science behind the meta because I'm not, and I'm going to be like, why are people playing Doomfist? We are going to fill out a Pick'em's bracket, and if people want to help us do that, that'd be more than welcome. And then I've been told we have to make some bold predictions, which should
Yeah, because
be
the desk has been struggling with that. It's hard. It's hard to ask when to make a bold prediction because you know it's gonna get memed. Like I think I like Zoe's take. I think she was calling them like ice water or like lukewarm water or like tap water predictions or something. Because the the self preservation move with Pickums is just to say something crazy.
Is
Like
that, and I know you're a really big NBA guy. Is that something that we see in the NBA? Like, is that
no, the NBA is the opposite. You
yeah?
have like Stephen A. Smith going out there and he's like, "I'm gonna let you finish," but like
But like,
and,
right?
and he just rips off like the dumbest thing you've ever heard, but it gets clipped all over the internet, and that's how he's making his bread right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think esports will get there, right? I think obviously
We gotta build up
fans,
some thicker skin.
yeah,
We're
it,
esports is very thin skinned right now. It's pretty yikes.
yeah, it's. I mean, we're making these predictions, and analysts are analyzing because it's fun, right? And they're everyone's allowed to have an opinion. I think it's just um you know fans can be really vocal, and I understand wanting to stay on the safe side sometimes, but that's not what we're here to do, right? So, okay, let's dive in if we will. We essentially have what, two matches to kick things off in Hawaii: Shanghai versus Florida, and Dallas versus Chengdu. First off, favorite match. What are you more excited about, and why?
I'm way more excited about Dallas Chengdu. I think the cool thing about both of these teams is that they have been in each region, I think the most unorthodox, right? Dallas kind of started with this lack of a hit scan because XC left. Um, I joked with kind of some of the people that were asking me about why Dallas is doing so well, and it's that the meta has almost shifted to a no hit scan meta, and now here is Dallas having been practicing this out of necessity for a month, and so they're very good at it. Um, but yeah, I think like, they've been using like this Sparkle Doomfist. They've been kind of forced to do unorthodox things, and then Chengdu. I mean, the Chengdu zone has always been the off meta picks. And I think a little bit less so now. They have Gaga, who I think is a great main tank. You still have Among there. Um, who's a good kind of pocket pick, but I think that they've played more of these Pharah comps, more of these ball comps. So I think that's going to be a really interesting game. How do these two unorthodox play styles match up? Because there really is not a Dallas equivalent in the East, and there's really not a Chengdu equivalent in the West. And so that to me is the whole idea behind doing this. Like, why are we shipping these players out to Hawaii? Why are we doing the expense and the risk and all of that? It's because we want to see these really cool matchups that because of COVID we were kind of robbed of. So I'm really excited for that game. I'm gonna have to swap from DC Brau to like my Runa energy drink of choice to stay up in
Yeah,
my old man
if anyone
hours.
has any connections to Runa whatsoever, and for those of you who don't know, Runa is a green tea extract energy drink, like a kind of like a healthier version of a Red Bull. Aaron's maybe like 40% Runa at the moment. Like if I'm 40%
It's
Diet
bad.
Coke,
Yeah.
like Aaron's actually made up of 40% Runa. Like, please, Justice fans or anyone watching, like we would love to have a conversation with
We could
Runa
probably
about.
sign another player if they just give us like they didn't have to give us money. If they just like paid for the Runa that I pay for anyway, like we could probably sign another player on that. Like
Easily. Our budget would actually go up probably like 20%. That would be no doubt. I actually did want to touch on something you said. So you mentioned Chengdu being kind of a more unorthodox team. I know I joined the Overwatch League a little bit late. Um, was that something that you feel like was also born out of necessity? Dallas not having a hit scan player, so like that kind of causing them to be the unorthodox team from the West this season. Was Chengdu's kind of craziness and play style something that they strategically always had, or was that something that kind of evolved from a particular situation, or something that they had in their past that kind of led them down that path?
Yeah, so I think it was very much out of necessity for them. And I think it was out of both, I mean, necessity and the double-edged sword of having Among as this incredibly gifted ball player. And so it's one of these things where like when you have someone like Decay on Tracer, or you have someone like um Mag on Winston, I'll use our examples as just like these special players that are good enough at a hero that they can play it when it's not meta. Um, you get kind of a double-edged sword 'cause on the one hand, of course you want to have a super talented player, but on the other hand, like sometimes there's a trade-off there. So like Amon was not very good at anything other than ball. And so they just kind of threw themselves into, okay, we will just play wrecking ball all the time. And it worked for them better than it frankly should have, in the same way that, and I use this example all the time, and I love that this happened for us in our playoff run. We were very good at Hog Zarya, but what made it even more effective than people expected, the reason we were 3-0ing the 3 seed, the 5 seed, all the way up through the tournament, is because nobody else was playing that comp. So you can't scrim against it. And even if you could find a contenders team and kind of be like, hey guys, like we'll like do you a favor, but we need you to play this composition. Nobody could play Zarya Hog as good as we did, and no one could play Wrecking Ball at the time as good as Among did. So they had like this double benefit of like, okay, we will do this because we're kind of bad at everything else, and
Sure.
also it will work better than it should because no one really like will put in the effort to prepare for it because we're a one off. Um, and so that was kind of like what started it. And now I think they've actually kind of, in the same way that the Justice have, they've blossomed into this really cool team that now has the players that can play the meta if they want to. But they kind of have this cool culture in their players and their coaching staff where they're not meta slaves, which a lot of teams are. And so kind of now they have the option to play the more meta stuff. I'm really interested because like the APAC meta and the West meta have been very different. So I'm very interested to see, do they, I think at least in this matchup, it will be in their best interest to play more weird stuff, because Dallas Fuel, the reason that the Dallas Fuel got to Hawaii is that their compositions mess with the meta pretty bad. Like the reason that we were able to 3-1 them, in my opinion, is because our double bubble is very strong, but it's not technically super meta. Like if we were running Rush, I think they would have run over us the same way they ran over um Houston and Shock.
Got
And
it.
so I think if Chengdu plays the meta, they're doing themselves a disservice because that's not what they normally do, and that's actually what Dallas is very good at beating. So I'm expecting it to be weird. I'm expecting it to be super weird, and I'm gonna stay up for it.
You're a Sanford. Okay, so when I can't get a hold of Aaron in the morning, everyone knows it's because he stayed up to watch these matches. It's actually not that bad, right? 11:30.
11:30 is
You
not
know, it's
heinous.
it's
Yeah,
it's not it's not terrible for
I've just been
esports.
enjoying my off week. I've been getting like an actual 8 hours of sleep for like the first time since the beginning of the season for a little while. So you know,
Okay, we can give some of it back now for great Overwatch matches. Um, well, I think maybe going off that, talk, and Jake, our lovely social media coordinator, gave us this topic, but it's something that you've talked about before. Metas kind of are similar to rock paper scissors, right? And I think one of the things that you were touching on is that Chengdu playing the meta would be doing themselves a disservice. Is that the same case for Florida Shanghai? Like, how does it? Like, how do you, as a GM, or how does Supreme as a head coach, like? I was always, I remember when I joined the Justice, and it was during Goats, and I walked into the team house in LA and I said, "Look, we're terrible at Goats. Please just play something different, right?" And there was a lot of pushback, right? There was pushback saying, "Look, this is mathematically the best comp. Like, you have to play it." Like, how do you find the line between like trying to perfect a comp versus trying to play the counter to it versus screw it, like we got really talented players, like let's try something weird.
yeah.
Big
I mean, I
question.
think
Big question.
yeah, and it really comes down to like in each individual meta, just how oppressive is the meta. Part of what's been really cool about this stage is that while there are certain compositions that feel like meta, so like Rush, Double Bubble, and like Sigma Ball, I think are kind of like the three metas that have become common. Within each of those, there's variation. So like even when there was goats, some people like Goats was oppressive for a while, and then there were some small changes. So people would run like Zen goats or Ana goats or Moira goats. And similarly, now there are variations within each of those three styles. So like we ran a really cool variation of like a Sombra double bubble that a lot of teams really couldn't handle. And other teams tried to replicate and they couldn't play it. Or Dallas has now done this kind of Doomfist rush, which is what they've become fairly well known for now as kind of their pocket pick strategy. So I think right now the kind of rock paper scissors, as you put it, that has kind of been created, and people were asking, how do we beat Dallas, and then Dallas beats Chalk and Houston goes to Hawaii. Like I mentioned, I think our composition, our double bubble, is very good against what Dallas runs. So I think that we actually would. I said this earlier. I think that if we played Dallas again in that tournament, I think we would have beat them again. I think our composition is just better. Um, but I think that
Unlucky bracket.
but I think that what we run really struggles against rush. And so I think if we had gone against Shock or Houston, that would have been very, very difficult for us. And then as we saw, Dallas's composition works very well against rush. So kind of Dallas's weirdness beats rush, rush beats double bubble beats Dallas. It's kind of like the thing that we have there. So and the nice thing about the meta is because there isn't one dominant meta, it speaks to the fact that none of them is oppressive, right? When you have something as oppressive as goats, even if you were bad at goats, you were worse at whatever you thought you could play that could counter goats because it was just so strong. And there were so, especially not even that its peak was so strong, but like you could make five different mistakes in a fight and it didn't matter. Like you could make five mistakes and still win. Um, and you had to counter that, you had to basically play perfectly, which nobody could really do. And so the nice thing about this meta, is that because three exist, it basically means not and any one of them is not so strong that it's forcing people to play it. So yeah, it's really there's not like a hard and fast rule of um, you know, meta is always meta or meta is never meta. It really just comes down to how kind of oppressive is any individual one. I think this stage has been really healthy. I think if you look on Twitter and you look at like the pros reactions, everyone really likes this state of the game because it allows teams to have identities, right? It's like part of why I hated goats was there was no identity. Like you wouldn't look at a team and be like, oh, they run this cool way of running goats. And oh, look at this, like this one individual player's way of running goats. Like, no, we all ran goats the exact same way. But
Although
now,
some did it
like,
better than others.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and yeah, some teams definitely did it better than others, but it wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't like what we have right now, right? Like you can look at these four teams and look at the individual strengths and play styles of these teams, and like there is identity. There is like Fearless playing out of his mind on main tank. There's Sparkle kind of flexing into this cool tracer role. There is like Yaki playing incredibly well on the tracer right now. There is like yeah, there's like the variation in Chengdu. Yeah, I think everyone part of what's really cool about this playoff is the kind of identities going in.
and
Um,
and I think
so
it's almost like what goes into driving that is really good game balance, right? Ultimately at
mhm,
the end of the day,
right.
you know, teams and staff across the league, right? Give a lot of input, right, into trying to help Team Four and the developers, right? Ultimately create a balanced version of the game, and of course there's going to be variations, and obviously with hero pools and whatnot. There's kind of induced variation, but yeah, I think we have to give some kudos to Blizzard and what they've kind of created, at least for this iteration or a specific patch that Melee is on.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like, I know we have to have the hero bans, but, like, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're kind of like we're living in a golden age, right? And I'm worried. I don't want us to kind of ban something and all of a sudden we get goats or the equivalent again. But
now it's the double-edged sword, right? Where you actually have diversity and you've kind of committed to a path of having hero pools again because you went through such a period without diversity, and it's like, are
mhm,
you going to end up actually messing up the golden times that you have right now, right? And I guess as the saying goes, only time will tell.
yeah. I think
uh,
I think it is good for us though, because like again, to be like brutally honest, The cool thing about having Grant here, is that we can talk a little bit about, kind of the conversations that we had when we were building the roster, and like what the phrase that we always threw around was that we wanted to always have a seat at the table, right? It's very difficult to predict a meta and be able to say, oh, we will be the best. Like we like this meta will evolve and happen, and we will be the best at it. But a realistic goal is to say, oh, we will be like a top four team very, very frequently. And then if it just so happens that like a hero that we're good at becomes OP, or we just kind of click on a certain meta, that's great. You can't guarantee that every time. But I do think that like we're one of the teams that I am that trying to look like as objectively as I can, looking at the Justice or being a Justice fan versus any other team fan, I would be much less worried about whatever variation the next tournament cycle brings as a Justice fan than I would be for most of the other teams. I think a lot of the teams got extremely lucky this patch. They looked way better than they might have in a different patch. Um, and this wasn't perfect for us. Like people like, I mean, everyone kind of knows, right? Like Rush was not really our thing. I think with a little bit more time, we could have tweaked it and we could have been, I mean, we were still good enough to go 4-0, right? So we weren't terrible. But yeah, I don't think we had it just perfect enough to be the top two on that day. Um, so yeah, I'm not particularly worried about it. I'm worried about it more from a game and league health wise situation than I am in a just a success situation, because I think that we have put ourselves in a situation where it would be very difficult for the game to bend in a way that we can't deal with. It's more of, is the way that it bends entertaining, and is it still enjoyable, and is it still drive viewership and whatnot?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic, right? Because I know, you and I were very aligned when we were building the roster, and as power rankings started coming out, and there were folks saying we're the best team in the West, second, fourth, like all these crazy power rankings, and it's great. Obviously, we're excited to be viewed as a great team, but when you look at like how you strategically should go about, or at least my philosophy on building a roster in most esports, and this doesn't hold true exactly across the board, right? There's definitely something to be said about like LCS and how you would build a roster in some other leagues, but like spend doesn't guarantee success, but primarily because of the variations and randomness that esports has that traditional sports doesn't always have, right? So like if you look at
Right,
the NBA or the NFL, like the rules don't really change drastically every year. Even on a multi-year basis, but in esports, like they change every month, right? Like it's essentially like you're adding like a 4 point line to basketball every month. Then you take it away one month, you make the 3 point line like 6 feet shorter or something, right? Like the amount of like randomness is crazy, and when you're trying to build a roster that can be successful throughout all of that variation, essentially you want players who are just adaptable to whatever gets
right,
thrown at them, right? And
right.
the idea that you could just spend an obscene amount of money and get the best players in one meta and be successful, for a season is kind of just mismatched with the reality of how the Overwatch League operates right now. And so, for us, it was can you get players who are going to handle the curveballs that inevitably get thrown at them, want to be here, want to be a part of the culture that Aaron and Supreme that you and Supreme are building here, and then ultimately, if at the end of the season the cards have kind of gone our way, we're at least in a position where we have a seat at the table, and if the meta at the end of the year is something that we're really good at and that our players really excel at, like we have a shot at it, right? Like, but I think it's something that as fans of the league kind of look at their favorite team, like think about how those teams were constructed, right? Was it constructed with kind of flexibility in mind? Was it constructed with like a win now mentality, like a we don't need to win now and we want to make changes throughout the year? But there's all these different ways that you can go about building a team, and at least for us, I think flexibility was kind of king.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Um, well, cool. Well, that's a nice segue actually, because Aaron, we have predictions to make. So speaking of predictions for our own season, I'm going to attempt to pull this up here. If I
Did you
can.
actually do like the official bracket?
I yeah. I did the
Oh,
official
I didn't.
bracket.
I didn't. I just like wrote them down.
Oh well, no, I'm pulling this up now because I'm
Do
good
it.
at
Do it.
following directions. So you're not going to be able to see us for a little while, but everyone should be able to see kind of tragic. There's a line down the middle, but it's fine. Um, so in any case, on my scuffed bracket, we are going to make some selections. So starting with Shanghai and Florida, and
Oh,
also
so we're
you have.
doing it together. So is that I didn't miss anything. This is
Oh yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. Of course we're doing it together. Yeah, we're doing it together, and chat
Okay.
gets to roast us as we do it if we do something dumb.
That's good. Also, hey everyone, I see hey Orca. I see Orca in here. Starry Palettes, our resident amazing artist. I saw who else was in here. Peter's here. Dark Phantom's here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Um, yeah. So which one? How about you do one? I'll do the other one. I'll let you pick which one you want.
Oh god. Okay, I will do Dallas Chengdu because I have less chances of messing that up.
I think I think the Mayhem are gonna 3-1 the Dragons, which is
Whoa. Okay.
which is probably which I mean this could I'm basically double dipping here. This could also be my bold prediction. Um, so my reasoning is I think Yaki's on another level right now. If you watch his POV, his tracer is he teabags too much for my liking, but other than that, there's very little that I can critique about his tracer play. Um, so yeah, I think that's very good. I think I was not this high on the Mayhem until they played a level of rush against us that we were not ready for. I think most people weren't ready for. And so I think that's really great for them. Shanghai, I've said, and I said this on my stream with Avril, on paper, their roster is insane. Their roster is so good. But they have just not been able to make it click. And you kind of see them like they'll have an on game and then an off game and they'll play great and they'll play terrible. Um, the only way that I could see this prediction going awry, and this is one of my things that's this is also kind of alluding, I guess, to my what my bold prediction could be, is how much is this travel
Ah,
the
you stole my topic, Aaron.
oh no, yeah, how much is the travel? How much is the jet lag? How much is not playing at your home arena? How much is losing at least 2 days of scrims? How much is limited hours of access to a facility going to mess with your team chemistry and your ability to perform?
Well, yeah,
Um,
and I mean, even then, like on top of that, who are these teams scrimming? Are there, our Western? I know we're off. I have to imagine other teams
yeah,
are.
probably contenders team, probably high tier Korean contenders teams. Will be my guess.
We
Like the
have
runaways of the world. I think they're still in season right now.
got it. I mean, but you
They're
have
like
to
they're yeah.
imagine, right? Like having limited time at a PPA, a practice facility, having to travel there. The COVID protocols alone, right? I think when we were looking at it, what you get COVID tested
Every time
every.
you go through a door,
Yeah, but I mean, it's not okay. Maybe it's not as literal as every time you go through a door, but it
it's
was it was
yeah.
a lot, right? And obviously COVID tests are important, and we want everyone to be safe. But it's certainly not pleasant, and it does take time and effort. So, um, well, I look. I mean, you're picking Florida over Shanghai, who gets to sit at home and
Yeah, and I
as
guess like yeah, like to I mean like that's kind of like my caveat, right? Is them saying that, but I'll say that my because I don't like it when people like make a prediction and then undercut their own predictions. So like both ways they're right. Like the reason that I'm sticking with this is that I have been very impressed with how Blizzard has gotten through the season so far. I think the minimum latency has worked perfectly in all of the games that we've been a part of. I think that the tick rates and the servers that we've been on have all been buttery smooth, even in our games against Vancouver, which is like a further opponent for us on a more distant server. The players didn't even realize that they were on the higher ping because it was so good. And so the reason I'm kind of sticking with this is I have faith in Blizzard, to put Florida in a position to be successful there. So
okay.
that's my guess. Even
It's
though when I'm cheering, I'm still cheering for the East. Just to be clear, I'll make predictions to be right, but as far as who I'm cheering for the Justice, which means I'm cheering for the East.
yeah. I was gonna say because this actually uh it messes things up here because if
Yeah,
I
you get your first win, then you are guaranteed a point.
yeah, they're guaranteed third. So
Yep.
um Wow, bold predictions indeed. Um, so I particularly was struck by something. I have not watched many matches, but I do love Chengdu. The panda is adorable. Like, let's be real. I like the panda has got to be a top
Oh man, you're
10.
doing how my sister does the Super
It's got to be
Bowl.
like a top 10
Listen, their
mascot right now.
colors. I like the colors, and
No,
Tom Brady's
no,
there. So
no. I look shamelessly. I think if I ever, God forbid, was forced into a position where I had to, coach an owl team. One, God rest and bless those players, because we would definitely be a little disadvantaged. But my guiding philosophy would be YOLO and throw the rule book out the window. So I'm gonna give it to Chengdu. I have a feeling it'll be a close one. I'm gonna give Dallas a map. I think their map pick. They can find something where Sparkle's really able to pop off on Doomfist on, and I think we saw even in our match against Florida how big map selection could be for playing a meta specific comp. So yeah, we'll give it to Chengdu 3-1, and then see
I
what
think
happens.
this is a big unlucky for Dallas on which side of the bracket they fell on. Because I think if Dallas was going against the Dragons, I think I might have given it to Dallas. I think that Fuel and the Hunters would beat both of the teams on the top, because I think that the unorthodox play styles that they have are certainly good enough to beat the Dragons. And I mean, the Mayhem are interesting because OG's Winston is definitely like a top 3 Winston in the league, and that's like a big part of how you break Dallas's play style. So I think Mayhem versus Fuel might be interesting. But no, I like this pick, and RIP Fuel for landing on the wrong side of the bracket.
Yes, I got my Aaron seal of approval. That's really all I was hoping to do in this stream. Also, I learned I could hide the overlay. We are learning as we go. So,
Nice.
stream quality is improving by the minute. Thanks, folks. All right, should we do upper bracket or lower bracket?
I'll let you pick again, whichever one you
Oh
want.
no,
I
this
have,
is.
I mean, I have strong feelings. I have strong feelings either way.
I'm doing lower bracket, so you go first.
Okay. So top, mm, I think it's 3-2 Chengdu.
Ooh,
Or actually, this is best of 4, right? Wait, when does it? Oh, wait, this is important. When does it start becoming first to 4? I
it
forget.
does not appear according to the website that this is first to 4, because it won't let me click
Oh,
past
okay.
3.
It must be the grand
It's
finals
just the
then.
grand
Okay.
finals.
Okay. So yeah. We'll stick with 3-2 then. Um, and this is like another cool thing that we can actually dig into and talk quite a bit about. One of the coolest things about this meta is how map dependent it is. Like, there are maps where you have to run rush. Like, there are maps where you have not have to, but like, it is strategically deeply in your interest to run rush. There are some where it's deeply in your interest to run some variation of like double bubble or something like that. So I think this is going to come a lot down to map picks. But I do think that the hunters can play their style across more maps, and Mayhem will have to kind of keep swapping. I don't know. This is hard. This is a
I
toss
mean,
up. I'm like trying to talk myself into a corner here, but like
let me throw it
I'm just
let me throw it to you this way. Like, what happens if Florida wins the first map? Do you flip this?
um see, I don't know how much it really comes down to like map picks, because like even like when we were playing Florida, right? Like we lost maps that we picked, and so I don't know if it's like the problem with Chengdu is, do you really know what they're going to play on a map, right? Like, can you really look at them as a team and say, oh, we'll pick this because we know you'll play rush? It's more
True.
like we'll pick this, and like Chengdu's like, yeah, well, we're just going to play like our weird crap anyway. And to be clear, like crap that works. Um, but yeah, this is very very close to me. I think this could go either way. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Chengdu, and we'll call this one because I want them to win.
What?
That's where that's coming from.
Okay, that's we'll take it. Fair, man. I have to defend Shanghai versus Fuel now.
This
Um,
this this is gonna be a barn burner. Whoever comes out of this winless is gonna be a sad team.
well, really, only if it's Dallas. Like, I don't know, man. Are you that sad if you're Shanghai and
That's
you?
true. Yeah, you just get to go home to your bed
But
and just take a nap, and it's fine.
in any case, I'm gonna give it to Shanghai 3-1 because I think we want to see what happens when Dallas goes home. It's sad. No, I think that's look. I no shamelessly. I think what we both or I don't know, I mean, you can argue if you disagree, but I think fundamentally Shanghai would be a better team. I think you know they have more flexibility across their roster, and I think not having a hit scan player will ultimately hurt Dallas. And Shanghai will have watched Dallas on enough matches to have a strategy to counter Sparkle's Doomfist.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think that, and this was memed on in Twitter where I think it was Dante. Yeah, it was. It was Dante. It was after the Fuel beat Shock. Dante said like on Twitter something like, "Oh, it looks like the Shock prepared for the wrong team." Like, as in like the Shock were preparing to play Houston, not Dallas, and that's why they got thumped. And then Dallas proceeded to 3-0 Houston, and then Krusty retweeted Dante with like the like, oh, like first time thing with like what's his face, like I forget the name of the actor, James Franco,
Okay, yeah.
where it's just like, yeah, it's like that gif. And like they memed about it, but I think that's actually what happened. Like I think that like the Shock were actually like, whatever, we're gonna roll over Dallas, and so like we'll spend a little bit more time preparing for Houston. And Houston, I think certainly was like, Shock will beat the Fuel, and so we'll prepare to play the Shock. But now, like, everyone realizes how legit Dallas is, how much of a force Fearless is, and so like they will be properly prepared for it. And I do think that they're, again, I'll keep comparing them to kind of us in the playoffs last year. People I think underestimated that composition. They didn't really feel like preparing for it because why would you prepare for a one-off when you have 8 other teams in the bracket that are going to play the same variation of stuff?
Yep.
Like now it's 3 other teams. It's you and 3 other teams, and so that you're going to play against Dallas's brand of rush. And so I think it's gonna be a tough tournament for
So
them.
now this is one where I have to derail the our pick'ems for a little bit because you and I were talking about this earlier, but the theory behind getting buys in both esports and traditional sports and whether they help or hurt you.
Yeah,
And we preface this by like no, I think both you and I are not saying like getting a buy is why we would have won or why we would have lost, but I think there is something to be said about like when you're in the buy, like, and it was just something that like you don't really think about, right? Because like everyone wants to go into a tournament with like the best record possible. Like you want as many wins. They obviously count toward your regular season. Like the idea of only having to play one match and like a win and you're in type scenario sounds really good. Um, and then when you start thinking about it, you realize, well, like one, you actually have the same amount of opponents to prepare for as a team in the play-in match, right? So, in our instance, we didn't know who between Toronto or Mayhem was going to advance, and so like obviously we had to essentially prep for both, and whatever team wins that play-in, essentially has to prep for both teams, right? They have to prep for the team that they're playing against as well as the team that they would play if they advance. But like I think the biggest thing, and obviously we're not playing competitively, but like there is something to be said about like playing a game like an esport or a traditional sport and like getting a win and then like going into your next match like really amped up and like pumped up with your teammates, right? And I think
especially in this where the regular season is 4 games, so they literally get like 25% more stage experience than anybody else, right? Like that's not nothing. And like I
yeah,
talked about this a little bit on my stream too, right? So we're not saying that like if we could go back, we would say like, oh, we'd rather be the lower seed.
right,
Um,
right, right,
but it's something. It's something, and
yeah.
it is definitely curious that um every lower seed, every lower seed in the West, and then Philly got upset by Shanghai, and it was Chengdu. Were they the higher seed against
Ooh,
Seoul? I think they
I
were.
think they were.
So I think they were I think of 4. So I think, yeah. So 75% of them were upsets. It's interesting. I think
We'll have to see how that goes. or how that progresses along the season. I think
Yeah,
that'll
I mean, I
be
think the more telling correlation is just that 4 games is way too small a sample size to put much stock at all into seeding, because you play such a small segment of the league. You
yeah.
can't like realistically look at someone that's like, even though like I feel great about our opening 4 games and we were 4-0 and +9, but we played 25% of the league. And so I think that's probably the more telling statistic, more so than like these other things. But it's, it's interesting. It's
It's
something to think
almost
about.
like would you so and this is a big question, so you can tell me to not you can tell me to not ask it. But like what would be your ideal like play-in format going into a tournament? Is it like a round robin? Is it like a group stage? Obviously there's a ton of theory crafting around like the Swiss format for like CS and whatnot. Like what is your like dream format? Assuming time, money, resources, everything's not a constraint going into like a formal tournament.
Jeez. I mean, big picture, I could probably like sit down and think about this a lot, but I think the smallest and most common sense change that like I've been kind of advocating for on streams and social media is that in like the tournament that we just had, the higher seeds should get to pick which side of the bracket they want to be on. And so what that does is it rewards kind of that regular season performance a little bit more. It doesn't reward it so much that they get to pick which opponent they get to play. So like we would get to choose like after Florida and Mayhem and Dallas and Shock play, you get to pick which of those people because then you get to like prep and that's a little bit too unbalanced. I think our format's really good. I just think that it really doesn't reward the higher seeds much at all, which is fine. Like last year, I know we were not a higher seed, and we were one of the teams that was, it was pretty black and white. Like whenever these things get brought up, like the 5 highest performing teams want more advantages for
Sure.
the higher seeds. The bottom 5 teams want everyone included in playoffs and a much flatter thing, and the middle teams don't really care. And so now we are a higher seeded team. And so here I am advocating for more benefits for a higher
Although
seeded
I
team.
will I will say for what it's worth, there wasn't that much pushback to having everyone in playoffs that
There
last
really
season.
wasn't. It was like one
It was like
team. And
one
and, and
team
like
that was
and
like
you
pretty
know who it
upset about
was.
it. But yeah, it was kind of interesting, and I'm sure after the fact and after we kind of went on that crazy run, there was probably some people who wish they'd pushed back on that a little bit more. But yeah, it was people usually kind of lean toward common sense. So
Yeah.
okay, well we have I guess is this your turn? Am I picking the grand
No,
final?
this is you.
Oh
I
man, this is
picked
me still.
I did Mayhem Florida. You're the Dragons. Oh wait, no. Yeah, yeah. So now you are the Dragons Mayhem.
Man, I think Yaki just carries them. I'm giving
That's
it
a
to Florida.
reasonable.
I really don't
That's a
want
reasonable thing
to.
to say.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a reasonable thing to say.
I like really think like Yaki's Tracer just like pops off. Like he'll be upset having lost to Chengdu. Like they're not gonna want to deal with like going home early. They want another day on the beach. They're just gonna pop off or he's gonna pop off and they're gonna beat Shanghai. Still doubt and fuel. Flame Sis, I don't know. Like it's just no hit scan player. Like what happens when Chengdu plays Farah? Farah is the enunciation. What?
Yeah.
I don't know, Aaron.
Yeah.
There's probably a more in-depth reasoning than
I mean, no,
mine, but
I think
like,
like on the surface, I think that's true, and I really do think like I'm going to keep drawing comparisons until to our playoff run until I am proved otherwise. But like the reason that we did so well in the playoffs and we 3-0'd almost every single team, and then we got 0-3 by Philadelphia is because at the point that we got to Philadelphia, they knew they were going to play us, and they prepped specifically for us. And I think part of the reason that Dallas got to where they did is because teams were not really prepared for them. And I think that unless some team really shoots themselves in the foot and really just did not watch any VOD on kind of the fuel, and I don't want to make myself the what's his face, the Dallas flex support that went to Valorant. I don't remember his name now.
uh,
You know what I'm talking about, right? The guy that was like, oh, like any idiot in ranked could like counter
Zachary?
Zarya Hog. No. He went to he was DPS, but he played Brig, and then he went to Phase. The other one that went with AKM. I forget. In
Chat
any
help.
case,
We're struggling.
yeah, I don't want to be the guy like, yeah, it's like Unco, yes, thank you.
Whew. Thank you, chat. It'd
Yeah,
be
who's like
nothing
saying that
without you
like
guys.
that like Dallas is like this super beatable team because they're not. Like they're playing very well. I think they have great synergy, especially from like their old days. Um, but yeah, I think prepared for specifically, it's going to be a tough time. So, and I like your Mayhem pick too. I think the Mayhem are rolling right now, and as much as I don't want Western teams to do well because of the bracket implications, there is something to be said that if we got knocked out by by a team that goes far, you feel a little bit less bad about it. You look at it and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like yeah, oh,
And I
yeah,
mean, like, as far as like orgs that, like, I think, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but like, Ben's a great owner, and Albert's obviously a good dude too, and they've been doing good stuff this year, right? Like, especially on
yeah,
the
I think Swing Chip's been really involved in like the content that they're putting out, and I think the league doesn't always hit the nail on the head when it comes to bringing Korean rosters and Korean speaking players to as accessible a place with fans as they could. I think Swing Chip's one of the first people that really kind of steps in there. So yeah, you can't be mad about Florida doing
can't be
well.
mad.
Can't be mad about that.
They got a nice color scheme now too. Now that they went, what
Yeah,
was it?
that
It
was
was
important. Can you imagine having to support the McDonald's team?
yeah.
Yikes! No one could have done that. Jersey sales plummet. You can't
I
do
mean,
that.
at least if you're gonna do that, you got to get the sponsorship, right? Like, I don't know who you got to call, but like
Oh yeah, you gotta really dig in
you
there.
gotta really lead into that. All right, you gotta call the finals. We got a
Oh
Chengdu
man,
Mayhem. This also is counting for
this would be the
my.
rematch.
This is counting for my pickums, which are worth nothing. But I do want you to feel some level of responsibility to that.
Wait, so I don't even know. So what is the benefit that Chengdu gets for being in the winners bracket here? Does Florida have to win twice, or is this literally just like straight up? Do we know? I literally stopped reading the
Chat help.
rules. I stopped reading the rules as soon as I knew that we weren't going to Hawaii. I was like, well, yeah, so it's definitely to four. I know it's first to four, but I don't know
I did not.
what
I
the
do not
penalty for being in the losers
remember.
bracket is.
I do not remember seeing a benefit for winning bracket. I
That's
may.
heinous.
I
If
may
that's
be
true, I would be so mad.
crazy.
Overwatch
You're
League.
all frantically googling the. Guys.
Let's see here. This, yada yada yada. M4 and 5. It does not appear that there is a
I
benefit.
really don't remember seeing any benefit for going through the bracket, but okay.
Yikes.
Oh, they get first map pick. Is that a thing?
Yeah, but is that enough? Like they definitely do get that because like we got the first map pick as the higher seed in our tournament. So that's yeah, they definitely get first map pick um as like what would be like the quote higher seed. But I don't think that's anywhere near enough of a reward to be like because like what like literally like Chengdu beats in this hypothetical scenario. Chengdu beats Florida, and then they have to play them again, and the reward for beating them is they get to pick the first map, like that, which I think they get to do in the first case anyway because they're a
They
higher
do the higher
seed going into
seed.
the tournament. Like, yikes. We'll see. I'm gonna do some quick reading after this stream here
Yeah, Aaron and I are
and
about to
check in on
dive into the
that.
rules that we didn't read as soon as we didn't make it.
Yeah, because that would be a little bit monk ass. That would not be the best. So we
Huh.
will see.
In any case,
Um,
okay. Well, as it stands, you got an even slate for Chengdu, Florida.
yeah, I mean, if you're not, oh, they do. Peter's saying they have to play an extra game. Wait, so like what kind of extra game? Like they like so like if Florida beats them 4-1, then they got to do it again because that's how double elimination normally is. Like you have to like beat
No,
them.
I think he means just like the fact that they have to play Shanghai is like the extra.
Oh,
Like you see, like Chengdu
yeah,
technically
yeah,
plays
yeah,
two to
yeah.
finals, and like they have to play three. But like,
That's just like how a double elimination bracket works, though. Like that's
yeah.
still not like quote punishment for being in the losers bracket.
All right, we'll get back to y'all on this.
might not
then.
be. And again, like, I mean, if
I
that's like the
too.
stylistic choice, because then you get like a much more hype. Because I that has been like a critique in the past. Um, that
It's tough, right? Like, there's definitely other leagues that struggle with like what you
Yeah, it's
reward.
so unhype. Like, because if it is like you have to win twice, like what, like Florida wins this, and then like everyone's going crazy in chat, and it's like, nope, congratulations, now you have to do it again.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that does not
the
help.
full bracket reset. I think a lot of folks are really not behind for the loss of momentum, but like +1 map or like
Plus one
plus
map is what I would do. Like
yeah
that's yeah. Like, I think that like um doing like the whole like match behind is like a hype killer. But I do think that like I would give the higher seed a map here, or the winners the winners finalist a map. But I don't know. That's the thing. Like, if that's not the case, like I literally think it was a coin flip earlier. So like I don't. I
But
mean, maybe
now
you could
now how does like
hunters.
but how does first to four impact versus first to three? You have to
I
imagine
mean,
that helps Chengdu, right?
maybe especially if like what do we have like some like flash forward to like the mayhem, like jet lagged, dehydrated, like having carpal tunnel because the desks aren't perfectly flat. Um, I don't know. I don't know.
Make the call.
For
Make the call, Aaron. Ruin my
I mean, like
pickums.
the cheapest call is like 4-3 Chengdu, and just say it's like another coin flip that just kind of happens to go the way of the team that won last time. That's playing at their home facility, and Chengdu gets to like in. And this is also, I mean, to Grant's point, right? Like you would say, like Peter's saying in chat, right? That like you're Chengdu, you get to watch this Shanghai mayhem match and like learn strats. But the thing is, like learning strats without time to scrim and create plans is not the big advantage you think it is, right? So like us watching the Toronto Florida game, even if we saw things that we could exploit, we had like an
Yeah,
hour to
but
like
wait,
talk
wait,
about.
Aaron. It's the next day. That's the difference. So, like that actually
Oh.
might matter a little bit more here, right? Because you got Chengdu sitting at home, they
Oh,
can watch, and also like
interesting.
I have no idea what time, like what the time zone difference is here, but presumably they'd be watching like during the day. They could go find a scrim and like actually practice a strat based on what they
That's
saw
true.
in
That's true.
Florida,
Okay,
Shanghai.
I'm gonna call it 4-2 then.
Oh,
I'm gonna give Chengdu. I'm gonna give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt here and say that they also saw that coming, and that is how they're rewarding the winners bracket
yeah. I
by
think
letting them
in the
keep that
event,
game and then getting a scrim over it.
yeah, I think in the event that two Western teams made it, you'd probably be you know, it'd be less impactful, right? Because what are they going to do? Like stay and try to find a scrim partner, yeah, or something. Like I think if it's ever an East and Western team in the finals, though, you have to favor more than likely the Eastern team getting an extra day.
Right, yeah, if they're the same on paper, yeah, you're kind of giving an equipment slash situational bump to the hunters. The other thing
Okay.
that we oh, you know what? The other thing that I think is going to really drive home. I forget. Did you call both of the Dallas games? You did, didn't you?
I did. So if this
So
is
yes,
wrong, you gotta
no,
tell
no.
me now.
I think this helps you. Is I believe these games are gonna be 90 ping, which is for
For
a
a
Doomfist comp,
Doomfist.
not exactly
Woo!
what you want. It's not again like and again like it's really important to know that these ping numbers on Blizzard servers are very different than ping numbers in your ranked games. Like like I said, like our players when we went from a certain ping to almost double that ping, they didn't even notice because the Blizzard servers are so kind of smooth. So we'll see.
We'll take it with a grain of salt. See
But
what happens.
it definitely doesn't hurt your prediction. Like worst case scenario, it's not impactful, but best case scenario, at least for your pickums,
Whew.
is it does make it a little bit scary to be a Doomfist player.
Okay. So locked in. You can screenshot it, put it on Reddit. The
There we go.
The official the official predictions
Hey, I
from
will say
from
when Avril and I made our predictions for the week 3 outcomes, we got every single one correct. So
wow.
if anyone used that for pick'ems, they made bank.
I don't even feel bad showing that I have 0 points. I have not filled out any pickums. I am a terrible fan. So you guys can all. Oh, I actually you have to hit submit. Okay. Uh. Okay. Locked in.
Boom.
Boom. Done. All right. We'll have to see what happens in what just under an hour and a half. That's crazy. I'm so excited. I think I might stay up, Aaron.
Yeah, man. Stay up.
Can you call me out of work tomorrow? Is that something that I can get to happen?
I'm pretty sure between the two of us, we can just cancel all the
We
meetings. I
can
think
just
we
cancel.
own all the meetings on the calendars. Like between
Just
you,
cancel
like, I own
everything.
most of the competitive ones, and you own all the business ones. So
Yeah,
we'll just push them all back.
it's an official justice holiday. That's definitely one of my staff is watching this, and they're gonna actually think I'm serious, and this is terrible. Okay, let me bring us back. Try to accomplish this. Oh, back. Did all of those. Okay, we're on bold prediction.
I feel like we
I
just
feel like
did bold
we did
predictions,
bold
man.
predictions.
Like I feel
Yeah.
like we had to do a lot of
All right,
justification there.
we're going to just chatting. We're gonna wrap things up with some just chatting. So chat. If you have things that you'd like to ask Aaron or myself, let us know.
I already canceled all 10:30.
Yo, I don't know who's on the Justice YouTube right now, but I will be speaking with you after this stream ends. That's why we can't do things like this, Aaron. The things get too crazy. We're both on a show.
We'll see. I'm one of the things I'm really interested, and I actually have no information on this, so this isn't even like a leak or anything. But I'm interested to see if Blizzard makes any changes to the league format. Um, so there was like feedback from people on a couple of different points of the tournament format from the first rotation. And you obviously can't change it mid cycle because people have made plans and preparations for how they're going to play the game. But I'm curious to see if, like if Blizzard kind of looks back at it and they're like, oh, turns out, I think one of the best points of feedback was this didn't actually happen. And it now becomes infinitely less likely, but like if you get through all 12 tiebreakers,
What
like the
happens?
13th tiebreaker was a randomly selected control map. And someone in league chat like very astutely brought up that especially in this current meta, the fact that that's RNG is basically just turns it into a coin flip. Like if it was us versus the shock, the RNG would basically be double bubble map, we win, rush map, they win. And like that's not what you want, right? You want like a sudden death map. So then like I think, and again, like this person that brought this up, they had a really good solution to that, which was like of the 5 control maps, you let both teams eliminate one from the pool, and then you RNG the last 3.
Hmm.
Even that though, and again, like this was a very specific meta where the maps mattered a lot. So like there was that. There's also the fact that like half of the tiebreakers rely on
Regular
regular
season.
season difference, which right now the regular season is only the current tournament cycle. But I will say that that's the part of the reason I'm not totally devastated from the outcome from this tournament cycle is that we are in great shape. We are 4-0 plus 9. So looking at like the end of the season, we would have loved some of those bonus wins. But we're looking okay. It does not count, like our performance in the play-in tournament does not count against us in any way. Um, the 2 teams from the West that did go are both 3-1. So if they finish 4th or 3rd, they are still technically behind us in the standings. So we're okay. We're in an okay spot. And I think that we definitely learned a lot from our Florida match. So I think that we're still looking up.
Aaron just really wanted a Hawaii shirt. That's basically what.
That was the big thing.
Wait,
I have Hawaii shirts. I
we
wanted
need
to wear them.
we need to turn this
Unironically.
we need to turn this into a leak stream too. So not an actual leak stream, but like a low key leak stream. So honestly, I wanted us to go because we designed like merch that we could drop for qualifying, and then also merch for like winning the whole thing. And thankfully it's like things that we can like adjust for like the future tournaments as well. But like guys, if you are like a Justice fan and or just in general, if you're a fan of like cool merch, like you want us to go to Hawaii at least once so that we can all get these awesome hoodies and shirts and stuff um that our team designed. So we'll
Jesse actually in chat brought up a good point. I totally forgot that Dallas went 2-2. They like snuck in on map differential and head-to-head difference over the Gladiators. So yeah, I think overall we're looking okay.
yeah. Cool. Well, I don't know how we normally end these things.
Final shout out to the sponsor.
Yeah, final shout out.
I had to crank out another one because
Whoa.
they're just
Okay.
so
There was no
drinkable.
announcement
There was
of
like there
going
was an
for round
audible
two.
kind of like
But,
like
but yeah, shout outs to DC Brau. Thank you for the sips of justice. We've really been enjoying them, as have a number of our fans and whatnot. We I think always welcome the opportunity to come and chat and just share what's going on with the justice. So we will be doing more of these, of course, throughout the season. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions or things you want to hear from the justice, you know where to find myself and Aaron. So other than that, enjoy the matches tonight. I know Aaron will be staying up. I'm gonna try to, and yeah, go justice in a couple of weeks.
thanks guys. See
Awesome.
you later.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.